Are you fired up? Yes. Are you ready to fight back? Yes. Well, we've got work to do. I also want to just ask you one last thing. As you think about the future of Iowa and what's at stake for this great state, and you know that what's involved and what's at stake and the candidates that are going to be running in 2010, are you willing to be involved? Yes. Are you willing to get fired up? Yes. Are you willing to fight back? Yes. All right, now we got some work to do. We got a long way to go. As you know, our country is in trouble and facing a lot of challenge. Our Republican Party needs to do better. We've had those victories in New Jersey. We had them in Virginia. But the last two election cycles in 2006 and 2008, they weren't so good. So we've got to be more than just critics for President Obama and the Democratic Congress. We've got to present our vision, our plan, in a hopeful and optimistic and energetic way for the future of Iowa and the future of Minnesota and the future of this country. And as we do that, as Matt explained, our perspective on politics and public policy is shaped and framed by our backgrounds. Now, Minnesota and Iowa have a lot in common. We're a state that if you drive across the Minnesota border into northern Iowa, you really can't tell that you're in a different state in a lot of ways. And so we've got these common values, these common traditions, these common perspectives. And then each of us has an individual background that shaped our experiences and our perspectives as well. And for me, I grew up, as Matt mentioned, in a town that in the 1960s had mass layoffs in the meatpacking industry and mass layoffs in the related stockyards. And I could see in the moms and dads in my community the challenge, the worry of economic downturn, losing a job and what that meant to families and their budgets. I saw my own mom sitting at our family's kitchen table with the checkbook literally in hand, just fretting over how we were going to get the family checkbook balanced. I remember that image and the family's cause to get that done and make sure we lived within our means. And so there's lots of people, like my brothers and sisters, who are old-style Reagan Democrats. I call them Sam's Club Republicans these days. But they're good, hardworking folks. And if you go down the top 10 list of things, they agree with us as Republicans on most things. But a lot of times when you ask them, well, if you don't want your taxes raised, and if you want more accountability in schools, and you don't want the government taking over the health care system, and you don't want them messing with your guns so we can continue to hunt and fish and respect the Second Amendment and down the list, then how come you were Democrats? Well, you Republicans, you weren't for the working person. You ever heard that? You're not for the working person. So they have a party now on the other side, our competitors, that have embraced big government, big unions, and big bailouts, and they want to have the people believe that they're for the common person, for the working person. We have huge running room. We have a tremendous opportunity as the country sees now that what President Obama promised is not being delivered, and they see the dangerous leftward tilt that he's trying to take the country. There's an opportunity for conservatives to rally and show the country a better way. And it's right in front of us in Iowa, and it's right in front of us across this country. So here's a few things I wanted to share with you just by way of example for the country and lessons I've learned in Minnesota. And the first is this: the federal government needs to live within its means. The United States of America is not a beggar nation. We're not going to have our leaders going around the world to sovereign wealth funds and the Chinese pleading with them to buy our debt so we can pay our bills. We need to live within our means, and we've got a deficit and a debt that is growing so fast that I hope it alarms everybody in this room. The only thing growing faster than the federal debt is Chris Matthews' man crush on Barack Obama. In Minnesota, now people say, oh, it's hard. You know, Iowa's more competitive than it used to be. Or I talk to people from California where they say, oh, my goodness, how could we be Republicans or conservatives there? You're looking at a governor who got elected and reelected in the land of Hubert Humphrey, in the land of Walter Mondale, in the land of U.S. Senator Al Franken. It is perhaps one of the more liberal states in the country. I love my state, but undeniably it's pretty liberal. And if we can contain spending and taxes in Minnesota, as Frank Sinatra sang about New York, if we can do it there, we can do it anywhere. And in Minnesota, yeah, absolutely. From the year 1960, the year I was born, now that makes me 49 pretty soon, but from 1960 until I became governor, the average two-year increase in Minnesota's budget was 21%, growing way faster than the private economy, way faster than people's paychecks, way faster than any reasonable ability to keep up with that kind of government spending. And I'm proud to tell you, in my time as governor, we now have the average two-year spending for state spending in the general fund budget down to 2% a year, and we've actually reduced spending in real-time terms for the first time in 150 years of Minnesota history. Now, as Matt mentioned, that doesn't come easy. I had to set a record for the most vetoes in one year ever by a Minnesota governor, and so I'm proud of that. You know, pushing up against an overwhelmingly Democrat or liberal legislature, and they had billions and billions of dollars in tax increases. They want to get back to that double-digit or 20% spending, and there's no way I'm going to allow that. And when the economy is growing hardly at all or very little, government needs to live within its means, and I think most Americans, most Iowans, most Minnesotans would agree with that point. Second, the federal government and all government needs to focus on the number one thing right now, and that's growing jobs in our state and growing jobs in this country. President Obama outsourced the development of this ridiculous stimulus bill to Nancy Pelosi and others, and they said, if we don't pass it, we might one day have 10% unemployment in the country if you don't pass the stimulus bill. What if you saw the news earlier this week? The country just went to 10.2% unemployment under the stimulus bill. And in the meantime, we got Congress, Democratic-controlled Congress, messing around with a miserable health care bill, a terrible cap-and-trade bill. They should be focused like a laser on jobs, not acting like a manure spreader in a windstorm. As a senior aide to President Clinton once said, it's the economy, stupid, and we've got a Democratic-controlled Congress that is dramatically off course, dramatically misfocused, and they need to get back to jobs. Now, as to how to do that, we won't go through the whole list, but it should include these. The tax cuts that are about to expire should be made permanent. We should, yes. We should do those things that are going to put money into the pockets of individual Americans, not the pockets of Wall Street, insurance companies, big unions, and big government. Things like cutting the payroll tax for small businesses and businesses as well as employees. Things like providing tax cuts to incentivize new hires. Things like tax cuts to incentivize the growth of small business. Tax cuts to incentivize research and development, and down the list, those things that we know will stimulate where jobs really should grow, which is the business sector, particularly the small business sector in this country, not throwing money into government bureaucracies.